everybody, it's Dazzle. Happy EDS Awareness Month. This is going to be a get ready with me and story time. I got diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos. So I got that diagnosis right before I started all of my Invisalign stuff. So it was kind of a lot going on all at once. So I didn't have a moment to get on here and talk about it. So then I saw the other day a performer friend of mine named Jacqueline Box, who is also another burlesque performer who has Ehlers-Danlos, posted about EDS Awareness Month being the month of May, and posted this cool graphic about ways that you could post every day in May about Ehlers-Danlos. I'm going to just do a face of makeup today. I'm going to be focusing on black and white because, as you will learn, Ehlers-Danlos is symbolized by the zebra.
Medical students have been taught to look for more common and usual diagnosis, not the unexpected ones. When you hear hoofbeats, don't expect a zebra. The zebra became our symbol because those with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome and Hypermobile Spectrum Disorder are the unexpected. Sometimes when you hear hoofbeats, it really is a zebra. When you see a zebra, you know it's a zebra, but no two zebras have identical stripes. Those with Ehlers-Danlos and hypermobility spectrum disorders don't have identical stripes either. Despite our different types and experiences, we are all people with Ehlers-Danlos. We are stronger together, and a group of zebras is called a Dazzle.
So I wore my black and white shirt. I'm going to do a black and white makeup look, and I am going to feature a red lip because red is the, aside from zebra, is the color for Ehlers-Danlos, that you like wear red for awareness. Alright, so the first bullet points on the graphic talk about your diagnostic journey, your symptoms, who you are, kind of what it's like to live with Ehlers-Danlos. So we kind of already gone over my diagnostic journey. I was able to get my diagnosis through a provider locally here in Minnesota who does evaluations for Ehlers-Danlos as part of her practice. She herself has Ehlers-Danlos and has completed a program and continues to complete programs with the Ehlers-Danlos Society that are special programs that help different doctors and other providers inform the way that they care for Ehlers-Danlos patients, whether it's helping them get diagnoses or treating their symptoms and other comorbidities that happen along with the condition. So that's my experience there. The visit was about an hour. We talked about medical history, symptoms. She asked specific questions about different, if I experienced any certain symptoms. She did some physical exam stuff. I had already done a lot of research on the things that I felt led to a conclusion that I had Ehlers-Danlos. So I had gathered those things together in kind of a history that I came with printed out that I typed up and handed that to her, and we went through it and we documented a few other things that I had not realized were part of that condition. And it turns out that I met the criteria for diagnosis like 3 different ways. Like you had to have this kind of a score on a certain test, or you had to have this score, at least this score, and a couple other things, or these things, or this, and I met it like three or four different ways, if I recall. So it wasn't even a slid in by the skin of my teeth, just barely qualified like I thought I would be. I was in more of the slam dunk category. So my fellow zebras who have been trying to tell me for years that I probably have Ehlers-Danlos, like, you were right. So yeah, that's how that all went, and I feel extremely fortunate to have been able to get my diagnosis and get it so relatively easily. The doctor that I saw is a true gem, and I hope that she sets an example for other providers to deliver this kind of compassionate care and diagnostic work, because it's so very needed. The symptoms that brought me there. So we all know, or at least if you've been watching my channel, you know, I have systemic mastocytosis, or a mast cell disorder. This is very common with people with Ehlers-Danlos. I call it kind of the unholy trinity, is people with Ehlers-Danlos tend to have mast cell diseases, as well as a condition that's cardiac and vascular related called POTS, which stands for like postural orthostatic, I can never remember exactly what it stands for, but it makes your blood pressure and your vascular system do weird things. So I have heart palpitations, but they're really well controlled with the metoprolol I take. But like I also have where if I lay flat on the ground, like the world just spins. And sometimes if I get up too fast, I experience lightheadedness, or even sit down too suddenly, I experience lightheadedness. I can remember experiencing that in dance class for a long time, like getting up and down and things too fast. Sometimes I would just get real sparkly in my eyes. So there's that. And my blood pressure is, like, despite how much sodium I intake, is chronically on the lower side of things, and it only gets lower as I get older, which for the amount of sodium I'm intaking should not be the case. It's not normal to be able to mainline salt and make your blood pressure get lower over time. That's weird, but that's part of it too. Hypermobility is a big part of it. The type of Ehlers-Danlos I was diagnosed with is called the hypermobile type. It's called HEDS, or HEDS, and it stands for Hypermobility Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. So that's usually when people think of it that way, they think of that like super bendy hypermobile person with like the turned out arms and like can take their finger and like flex it down to their wrist and things like that. I've got a little bit of bend in my fingers here, and this gets worse as time goes by, so that's like the breakdown of those connective tissues and the collagen. That's what Ehlers-Danlos is in this presentation. It's a malfunction of the way our collagen functions and holds things together. So it makes our joints lax. She could feel how lax my hands are, and I'm sure my toes are probably the same. I know my ankles are also hypermobile, which made me very good at ballet and pointe, but also made me prone to rolling my ankles. And my GERD, my acid reflux that I've had since I was a little kid. I've always had acid reflux, as long as I can remember it. And probably before that, my mom reports that I was a very colicky baby who would just scrunch up and cry and scream like I was in pain. And when I wasn't having these kind of like spells and fits where I was bunching up and screaming and things, I was a really calm, chill baby. So I think that I was just probably in pain. And these days, babies with reflux get baby reflex medicine, like proton pump inhibitors, like Prilosec, that they make for babies. So I would have probably got treatment, and my mom probably would have gotten a night's sleep before my first birthday. Oh my goodness. Management strategies in comfort. I don't do a lot of activity. My peripheral neuropathy keeps me from doing a ton of activity, so that kind of puts a hamper on a lot of things anyways, but I've limited the amount of time I'll spend doing my point work from ballet. I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to completely phase it out of my life, if I'm ready to do that. I don't know if I'm ready to do that or not. But it might be something that I need to decide to do, and retire that element from my performance life, because it might become too dangerous for my mobility and for my health. And then it's a lot of like PT stretches, my medications, my supplements, things like that to manage. and my diet, keeping my self away from those foods that flare my mast cell disease, keeping my sodium intake up, which is now doctor ordered. Every time my husband gives me a dirty look when I'm over using the salt shaker, I tell him that it's medicinal, so get off my back. My doctor told me to eat more salt. She really did. She told me to like drink Pedialyte and things like that, but I think I take enough sodium in through my actual diet that I don't need to supplement it with Pedialyte. So medical appointments and things like that, there's not too much doctors can do for me at this point. I'm managing my injuries from my Achilles tendonitis from a couple summers ago. I'm doing the best I can with that. I see my pain doctor. I did inform my pain doctor of my new diagnosis, so he's in the loop now on that diagnosis and is aware that that happened for me, and he is still supportive of me and my medication regimen that he prescribes, which is a very low dose of a controlled painkiller that helps me function. I can't take ibuprofen or Tylenol, so I'm kind of out of luck when it comes to pain management. So having a provider who will prescribe just a little bit of that medication for when I need it is really, really helpful. It helps me sleep at night and helps me relieve pain acutely when I need it, even just from like a headache or something. Not having my uterus is really helpful right now because I don't have to worry about that monthly pain anymore. It turns out endometriosis is really common in people with Ehlers-Danlos, so that was another symptom of a bigger thing. They say in with Ehlers-Danlos, if you can't connect the issues, connective tissues. So if it seems like somebody has like a lot of things going on, it might actually be one thing that's like truly causing or predisposing them to all those other things. Mental health wise, getting this diagnosis, it didn't have too much of an impact on me mental health wise. It was more of a confirmation of things that I'd already started to really come to know about myself. I think the final kind of straw that made me think like, okay, yeah, this is definitely what I have, was my visit for my consult with my orthodontist. He made note of my hypermobile jaw. I didn't realize that my jaw was hypermobile. Like I should have, but I didn't. My jaw has always gotten stuck when I overextend it, and it's a really scary feeling. And it turns out that's my jaw dislocating. So, yeah, maybe don't do that. I didn't realize, like, during my diagnosis with my Ehlers-Danlos doctor, she was asking me if I'd ever dislocated anything. And I was like, no, I've never experienced that, I don't think. And then we got to talking about one of the things that made me realize that I needed to finally come in and get diagnosed was that my orthodontist told me that my jaw was hypermobile. And I said, sometimes it gets stuck. And she said, sometimes your jaw gets stuck? What do you do when that happens? I'm like, oh, well, I like have to push it shut. And it's a really scary feeling. And she's like, that's your jaw dislocating. Ding dong. She didn't say ding dong, but it was in her tone. So that was kind of a, oh, Okay. I always thought a dislocation would have a different feeling, and maybe they have different feelings in different parts of your body. Like if your knee dislocates, maybe that feels different than when your jaw dislocates. But like I expected it to be like an acute pain, like when you see like in a movie like somebody's shoulders popped out and they're gonna like boom and put it back in and oh, and it's gonna be a big dramatic thing. It's not like that. It's like it gets stuck and like you get this race of like adrenaline and discomfort, and you just like do it, and it doesn't hurt the way that you think it should, being dislocated. So that was kind of the final straw that took me there, after realizing, especially with like the mast cell and like all the mast cell people having Ehlers-Danlos, and then pointing out different things, and me realizing that like I was starting to check all these boxes, and then looking at my son, and he's super hypermobile. He's got the arms that like turn out, and he can bend his thumb, and he's got like the super stretchy soft skin, and he's got poor muscle tone in his hands, and his fingers are all hypermobile. And so I know that I probably passed that down to him. So seeing it like presenting in somebody that you literally made with 50% of your DNA, I was like, okay, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to make a kid with Ehlers-Danlos if I didn't have Ehlers-Danlos. So that was a realization as well. Childhood, I guess I've always had Ehlers-Danlos. Like I had said, I had it when I was a baby and was refluxy, and I've also had it, that reflux, and gut motility problems, aka chronic constipation. That was really bad when I was a little kid. I've learned how to manage those things with diet medication now, but it was really miserable when I was a kid, just that having those symptoms, and like sometimes waking up and like feeling just so full of acid, or like having my food and it burned, or like hurt my stomach, and different things like that. So I had that as a kid, and also I had a cutaneous mast cell symptom in the way that I reacted to bug bites. I'm pretty sure if I'd ever been stung by a bee or anything as a kid, I might have had an anaphylactic reaction to it. I never was, so I don't know if I had that allergy and grew out of it or not. But I definitely, when mosquitoes would bite me, I would get these giant welts from them, and that's a very common cutaneous mast cell presentation. And I kind of consider my mast cell disease and like the POTS cardiac stuff to be part of Ehlers-Danlos, since they all seem to occur together so frequently. I almost consider it a part of it. I mean, the same way that a diabetic considers their peripheral neuropathy a part of their diabetes. So I had those symptoms as a kid, and then of course in ballet I was really naturally good at point because my ankles are super hypermobile. So going up onto point was really easy, and I had really pretty feet, and when I ballet trained my feet to be pointy and pretty, they trained really easily. We used to like tuck them under the edge of the couch and like point them so that they would get pretty and arched, and they trained so easily, and then point came so easily to me and always has. And but now as an adult, rolling my ankles has come really easy to me too. And it finally explains why I'm no good at inline or ice skating, because I don't have the ankle support. They think like there's kind of I think a little bit of a mistake people make when they think of ballet and point, and like that we have strong ankles. We don't really have strong ankles. We have strong thighs and calves. Our ankles are actually very flexible. And some people's ankles are probably much stronger than my ankles are, the average person who doesn't have Ehlers-Danlos. But it's not as much power in the ankles as it is flexibility in the ankles, and the power comes from your legs and calves, which is also why I've struggled over time to be able to maintain dancing point, is because I'm not able to train my legs and my calves to be as strong as they once were, so it's getting harder and harder to actually physically stay up on point. I can get up on point, but then staying on point is a matter of leg and calf strength, and I just don't have it anymore. My wish for EDS, I guess, would be that there would be more recognition of it, and more people getting diagnosed in their life in a timely way, so that they can get treatment and change the way that they go through life, so that they don't have so many injuries or problems, or even just feel like they're weird. I think the sooner you know about something and why you are the way you are, like, the better you get at managing it. A lot of my functionality and the mildness of my condition I chalk up to getting diagnosed relatively early in the progression of my disease, especially when it comes to the mast cell stuff. Like, I didn't suffer, all things considered, for that long before they figured it out, or I figured it out. They didn't figure out nothing. I figured it out. But it was just luck that my best friend was friends with somebody online, and they got their diagnosis, and they talked about, like, all the things they had been experiencing, and my best friend was like, Holly, this sounds like you. Like, you sound like my friend. They have all the same things going on as you, and this is the diagnosis that they got recently. And so I looked it up, and it was the mast cell stuff. And it was just like, it was absolutely shocking to see everything, like, laid out so clearly, and just so obviously that was exactly what I had. And I had spent a lot of time thinking that I had different things along the way, like, do I have MS? Do I have lupus? Do I have RA? What do I have? Do I have fibromyalgia? But this one was just so on the mark that there was just no way that that's not what I had. So, and that just happened by chance. I had developed my, the allergy symptoms had started to kick up in 2012 and progressed through 2013 and 2014, and then it was in 2015 when my neuropathy started happening, and that's when I really started to go downhill. And by 2016 is when I got my diagnosis. So it happened pretty fast, all things considered. The person whose diagnosis inspired mine had symptoms for, like, the better part of a decade. So they had been suffering for a long time before they got relief. And I barely, scratched the surface. And I feel like my disease would be a lot more severe if I hadn't gotten that diagnosis so early on, because I would have unintentionally kept doing the things that irritate the disease and aggravate the symptoms. It's progressive. It's a progressive disease, and when you keep doing the things that cause flares, the flares keep getting worse every time. So I was so lucky that I got answers so quickly and was able to, take meds and do all the things and avoid all the things and just inform the way I care for my body before it got too severe. So it probably bought me years of functionality that other people don't have because they wasted time in not knowing what was going on. And it's such a lucky thing for me to have kind of stumbled into, that I was able to get that diagnosis. So I guess that's probably also why I didn't have a big mourning period. After getting this diagnosis, I didn't have a lot of feelings regarding it that were sad. I had really kind of gotten that stuff out of my system in the morning that I did after getting my mastocytosis diagnosis. That was the one where it was super happy, grateful, awesomeness, like I still feel to this day. But then there was just this immediate onset of, oh my God, I have a thing and I'm gonna have it for the rest of my life, and there's no getting rid of it, and there's no curing it, and there's just managing it, and it's only gonna get worse. And that's such a troubling thing to experience. So I had already gone through all those feelings. So getting the Ehlers-Danlos, it didn't really change too much, and didn't make me feel as many things as that first one did. Because, and honestly, and it's all related, that unholy trinity again, of the Ehlers-Danlos, the mast cell, and the POTS. Like, it just, you know, like if I get a POTS diagnosis ever because my symptoms with my blood pressure and fainting and things like that get worse, it's not gonna mean much, because it's only gonna be like, well, now I have POTS too officially. I always had it, it wasn't doing its thing yet. It wasn't active. I know that it's like, it's in there and it's just waiting to cause trouble for me. Community. I've talked a little bit here and there about community. I'm really lucky that locally within the burlesque community here in Minnesota, as well as nationally and internationally, there are a lot of zebras in burlesque. And I kind of take that up to, like, I don't want to say burlesque is accessible, but it is. It's accessible in the way that there's no one way to do it. So it's not ballet, it's not tap dancing, it's not, you know, it's not some of the ways where it's like there's just kind of one main way you can do it. It's not ballroom dancing, it's you know, it's more like acting, where there's like a million different kinds of things you can do with it. So it's accessible in the way that, like, Jacqueline Box does burlesque in a wheelchair. My friend Minda May does burlesque in a wheelchair. I can do burlesque sitting or standing or laying. My friend Robin Swing does burlesque, like, usually from the floor or from this like crate box that she has on stage with her. So there's ways that you can adapt burlesque to you. That I think allows people with Ehlers-Danlos to perform burlesque. Now, the reason I was hesitant to say burlesque is accessible is because we have a big problem with, just like in all spaces in the world, accessible spaces. So stages, venues, classes, and things that aren't accessible to everybody, you know, because of physical barriers that that might be present. And we have to work towards fixing those things to make burlesque truly accessible, and all parts of our world accessible. They should all be, you know. I would encourage you, if you have any questions about Ehlers-Danlos, you can feel free to reach out to me. All of my info is always down in my description box. That's it for me today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.